With the signing of Tomas Jakob, it is time to catch up with Jason, who is parachuting in to let us know what he's found out. So what have you, found out, sir, about the new pickup for Atlanta United?
Well, you can read all about it at soccerdownhere.net. First off, he fits the profile of the kind of signings that we've seen Tata Martino make during his time here in Atlanta the first time around. He's a young player with a lot of upside. I think what jumps out to me is kind of his rapid rise after kind of traditional long-term development. He started at a neighborhood club in Argentina, then made his way to a slightly bigger one in Atletico Rafaela. Then he's spotted by Newell's Old Boys, who scout that region really well. He ends up making the move over to Newell's and then gets his opportunity. He's a very versatile player. That's going to be the big question for me coming into preseason is what does Atlanta United look like under Tata Martino version 2.0? And I think when you sign a guy like Tomas Jakob, you get a player who can play right back, who can play center back, who can play center back in a 3, and who both with Newell's and with Necaxa played as a defensive midfielder. So, I made the comparison in the feature about Franco Escobar, who there's definite similarities with him. He came to Atlanta roughly the same time in his career. He came straight from Newell's. He didn't make the stopover in Liga MX for half a season like Jakob did. But what Jakob gives you that's different is that ability in the middle, in the midfield. And when you look at some of the early scouting reports on him going back to when he was breaking in at Newell's, I didn't see the midfield portion jumping out to me. He was described as a great tackler, great defender, read the game well, but on the ball, that was an area that needed to improve. That was something that, maybe at a younger age, he took too many risky passes, for example, as opposed to simply keeping possession in moments. But he's been able to make that transition. And the story that I highlighted in the article that really stood out the most to me is, look at 2025 for Tomas Jakob. He was at Newell's in the Apertura in Argentina in the first half of the year. He really broke through. And again, kind of moving into a midfield role because it's what the club needed. He had a match against Boca Juniors where he stood out. He had a fractured finger on his hand. He played. They ended up giving him a break in the Copa Argentina the next week just to slow him down because he wanted to keep playing because he's that kind of guy. And after the match against Boca, his manager, Cristian Fabiani, said, the most important thing is that he listens. No matter the position, he listens and obeys. A player who listens plays for me. You can be less talented than the player next to you. Again, if you listen. And that, I think, says a lot. And that's the kind of values that Tata Martino is going to be looking for. The toughness, the ability to adapt, the flexibility, and just the fact that he went from that breaking out. Newell's needs to bring in money because Newell's always needs to bring in money. They sell him to Necaxa for a reported $2.8 million and retained a stake. I think it was about 80% of his pass. Now the reports out of Mexico are the move to Atlanta is in the $5 million range.
Yep.
Now Newell's will get some of that, a good bit. It'll be great for them. Necaxa will get a great return on 6 months. That shows you his rise, which is really going fast up the ladder. So it's a move that I want to see how he's used. I don't know if he's going to be a pure right back. I don't know if you're going to see a lot of 3/5 in the back, as we did with Tata Martino in the playoffs in 2018. We saw more of a 4-3-3 over the entirety of his run. But having somebody who gives you that flexibility to shift in-game, to play different positions without having to go add another player to the roster, and a U22 who's really cap-friendly and roster-friendly, feels like a no-brainer kind of move.
We didn't get the chance to catch up with you about the Lucas Hoyos move when that came down the pike. What has study hall been like for you once he was brought in? What have you been able to see and gather in your early information session?
He's a veteran. He's trusted. He's what you need in the situation that you're in with Atlanta United, where you have three very promising goalkeepers in varying stages of development. In James Donaldson as the youngest, in Jonathan Ransom as the second, the middle child, and Jaden Hibbert as the older brother of those three. And Hibbert, we've seen at the first team, limited, but we've seen him. He's very good. He's still a work in progress, as any young player is. Do you want to go into a season where there are expectations to compete? Do you want to go into that with Hibbert, who is going to have growing pains, as the number one with no question? I don't think you do. So you go get somebody like Hoyos, who can give you stability, can help your young goalkeepers in that goalkeeper room, and that was probably part of the selling point to bring him in. And if he needs to play a good bit, he can play a good bit. You've also got the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup that you're going to be playing in, so you're going to need some extra players. You're going to play a lot of games in a short period of time. Goalkeeper is different, but that second half of the season is going to be a lot of travel, a lot of games in the midweek. You're going to need a deep squad, and goalkeeper is a position that you needed depth in. It makes sense.
How much time do we have before we get to training camp?
I believe 2 weeks ish. I think they might report a little bit before they actually hit the field. I'm not quite sure of the timeline of everything. I do believe, I don't think it's 100% confirmed, but I think it's mostly confirmed that Dukes and Bell 92.9 The Game are going to be at training camp in the first week. A lot of players will be on the air, a lot of conversations. Of course, I'll be there and talking with Mike and Carl and getting you ready for the season before the team then goes to Florida and then comes back and then goes to Texas, it looks like, and then comes back and gets ready for the season coming up in late February.
Okay, another couple of topics on the table. How long do we have you?
5 minutes or so.
Okay, we'll get you to the topic. So let's go AFCON, because I talked juice boxes a little bit coming into today. And so right now you've got the favorites are prohibitive favorites for the most part going into the match day. And once again, it is match day 3. It is matches being played simultaneously. We've got 2 of them coming up in 5 minutes and then 2 of them coming up at 2 o'clock. And it is looking at Tunisia and Tanzania at 11, Nigeria and Uganda at 11, 2 o'clock, Senegal and Benin, DR Congo and Botswana. Obviously, the 2 o'clockers, unless something shocking happens, it's Senegal and DR Congo that you're looking at as prohibitive favorites. And you got Nigeria, Tunisia as favorites coming up at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a day for the favorites. We'll see if any of the underdogs can cause a stir. Tanzania has a chance to jump. I think the element of it that is really interesting when you look at this, one, Benin should get through with 3 points as a third place. You have 2 teams that finished yesterday on 2 points in third place. So that opens the door for anybody who gets to 3, with 4 teams going through from the third place teams into the knockout rounds. If you get to 3, you're pretty much going to get there. So Benin's in a good spot. Tanzania needs to get to that. I don't think 2, if they lose to Tunisia, then you're getting into goal difference. They'd fall behind Angola in that fact if they lost. So they need to go for it. That could create some fun in the 11 o'clock. So that's the game that is the most interesting to me. On the other side, Senegal has not quite been as good as I expected. DR Congo has been better than I expected. I think it falls in a really nice way that DR Congo can win the group, because I could see Senegal and Benin being a draw. I could see them canceling each other out. And then looking ahead to tomorrow, Cameroon has been a team that needs to make a bigger jump. I mean, I feel like when you look at Cameroon and Nigeria, 2 teams that didn't qualify for the World Cup, that I thought that put more pressure on them coming into this tournament, because they had to get something out of 2025 since they missed out on the World Cup. Nigeria has risen to that challenge. Cameroon has been good. I thought their draw with Cote d'Ivoire was good. I thought they looked good. They didn't get the win. They need to win, and they need to keep putting that pressure on, because the knockout rounds, when you start looking ahead, some of the matchups are going to be very interesting with a team like Senegal that could fall into a second place spot, with South Africa in a second place spot that's going to be dangerous. Mali hasn't really gotten it together, but they have the talent to be a difficult second place team. If Cameroon's a second place team, or Cote d'Ivoire, those are very good second place teams that create some drama in the bracket.
Okay, so I haven't played it yet, but I probably will once I let you go. When I mentioned El Kabi and bicycle kicks,
It's just ridiculous. I mean, it's hard to have one bicycle kick in your highlight reel for your career. Pele had multiple, and you didn't have a whole lot of highlight reels back then, but he had multiple, and it's like, wow, he's the master of this. El Kabi's got 3 unbelievable bicycle kicks in the last half of a year. He's got 2 in this tournament. It's insane. And to do it the way that he is getting these, it's not the traditional way with a cross from the side and he's timing it and going up and hitting it. He's falling back, which to me makes it even more difficult because the ball is not quite directly going over your head, but close to it. So the timing feels like it's even more challenging to get it. And he's done it twice in this tournament. I mean, put those aside, he's had a great tournament in total. And this is a player who's played in a lot of different spots. He's north of 30, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
A player who is breaking out. And when you start to look at what the legacy of this tournament is, I think it could be some of those players who we know the stars and we know some of the young up and coming players that get highlighted in AFCONs previously and get highlighted out of the continent. It's the guys like him. It's players who are in either the, just after the prime of their career or at the back end of the prime or in the prime of their career who haven't had those opportunities to be in big spots, who are showing in this tournament that they have the level to be there. So I'm curious if you get into January, a team that needs a striker says, well, he's hot right now. Let's go get him. Let's go spend the money. I think that could be the real legacy of this tournament, is some players maybe unexpectedly getting nice moves on the backside of the tournament.
And I know that you're keeping a list of those too for just for a list of, I want to see this guy wearing 5 stripes. Olympiacos right now is in the driver's seat with 32-year-old Ayoub El Kabi. So that is
and Olympiacos will sell if the money's right. They will absolutely sell. And he's one of those guys that could he go to Spain and do well in like a mid-table team trying to get into a European spot? Absolutely. Could he go to England and do well? Absolutely, he could. Like, there's a lot of different spots that he could go and thrive. And when you have a player with his experience and his form, you'll cut a big check and you'll go get him. Like, I would be watching to see where he ends up at the end of the January window.
All right, it's 11 o'clock. You turn into a pumpkin. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for crashing.
Yep. Adios.
All right, there goes Jason.